evening. You're watching this special edition on ET Now. It's been a neck-and-neck win that the exit polls are indicating, with BJP 93 seats, Congress 94, and the JDS as well as the BSP combined 33 with others too. So over the next half an hour, my colleague Tanvir, Gill and me, Ayesha, Faridi, would be walking through how this is going down with the markets come Monday morning. Is the market going to be perturbed given the kind of strong move that we've seen, the fact that we're already at 10,800, or this is something that the market was already expecting, or is this even a market moving trigger or not? We're going to analyze with our special panel of guests over the next half an hour.
Well, yes, indeed. We have Ayesha as well as Ayesha, as well as Ajay Pagga, three panel experts joining in to talk about what the exit poll results are indicating on how the markets would take to this decision. Remember, it's really a prelude. All of this really matters in terms of counting down to the general elections same time next year, and how that would influence BJP's position at the center. That's the bottom line. At the end of the day, it's really about what the market takes away from this result in terms of what the position would mean for the BJP in holding its ground at the national level. Ajay Srivastava as well as Abhiyama, great to have you on the show. Thanks very much for taking out the time. Ajay, let me start off with you. Give us a context to which, these results would impact the markets. Some would say that, okay, it's Karnataka. It was either way home ground for Congress. If they come back, it's fine. If the BJP comes in with the JDS, that's also something that the market would take on board. It's really Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh which would be key deciding results for to determine the BJP's position in the next general elections. But do you see it that way?
See, I think, to set up the context for this elections, one thing was very clear, that neither party fought the elections on the basis of an economic policy or a business policy or anything to do with economic agenda. It was about caste, about Hindutva and everything else put together. Somehow or the other, I think both parties were afraid to come up with an economic agenda for the election. That's very clear. And which is not good news, because for a country like India, we need to put economics first, finance first than anything else. Number two is, if what all the indications are saying, it looks like at worst case scenario, a marginal victory for BJP. A best case scenario looks to be that it will be a hung assembly with all kind of horse trading which will happen around the time, which doesn't sound too well in context again of the policies of the government. The government policies have been be prudent fiscally, try to get policy issues addressed. A lot of steps have led a lot of damage to the SME sectors, which is kind of impacting the export growth and the economic sector. Now, all those will start to now come and play them, and they've already conceded 1 point of farm loan waiver. So I think what this election would mean perhaps is a strong indicator of what's going to happen on the fiscal front, the borrowings, interest rate and the companies. And the stock market is very astute. If you look what it has done, it has very cleverly gone in favor of the large caps and junked out the mid cap in this correction. This correction has not seen the revival of mid caps. Mid caps are still where they were, about 600, 500 points when the Nifty was lower. It's the large cap which are riding the roost. So the stock market has very correctly anticipated that the best case scenario is going to be that the large caps will continue to gain, who are surplus, not indebted too much, and on the upper end of the economic sphere, the lower end, the mid cap and the lower end will have a major problem as we go forward, because whichever way you cut it, oil, fiscal, interest rate, it's not going to ease the burden. And if the ruling party does not get a decisive majority, there'll be huge calls to change tack. It's already changed with a farm loan waiver, as we said. It might change again. So I think the stock market should be very clearly looking at what's going to happen on the fiscal side, interest rates as we go forward, and of course, most important, whether the fiscal stops will start to come out now if the elections don't go the way of the ruling party. That's the context of it. By and large, market has sorted itself out. It's gone for the large caps. Mid caps are discounted. So in a way, we were anticipating the result. Market has gone into it very nicely positioned.
It has. Abhiyama, taking a leaf from where Ajay Srivastava left it off, for a market which has well forgotten all the volatility and weakness of February and March, with crude still being at 77, the large caps have ridden the market all the way to 10,800. Would the Karnataka exit poll decision be a trigger for the market, that something that the market is going to react to on Monday morning? Or do you think the market is way beyond this now?
No, I don't think in the short term the market is beyond this. Firstly it is exit polls, and secondly it's showing, if you look at the various predictions of the exit poll, they also seem to be pretty confused. So I think the proper reaction will come when the actual results do come in. I don't think exit poll would be taken, because the exit polls themselves are confusing, and the fact is they are just exit polls, they are not actual results. But I think the market has, at this level, has kind of factored in BJP forming a government with Janata Dal support. And if anything to the contrary happens, then I guess you will see a correction in the market.
That would be the case, but the only question that comes to my mind is how much will these results bear on the markets from a long-term standpoint? Is it really about political stability? I know, Ajay, you were making the point about how the markets are more focused on the macros. The fact remains that, going forward, it will also be political stability which will play on the market's mind. So, Ajay Bagga, let me come to you with your opening remarks. How would you view these results to determine the course for the markets?
Tanvir, markets will spin it positively. BJP is doubling its seats numbers from 2013, last bastion of Congress getting shaken. And the biggest probability is, if BJP crosses 90, they will be able to form the government with JDS support. And JDS being in a co-government, they won't even mind giving chief ministership to Kumaraswamy for the first 2.5 years. So I think market will view it positively. It's below what both the parties were claiming. The numbers are below their projections. And as Abhay was saying, these are exit polls, very close numbers, 35-38% kind of vote share difference. So 2-3% vote swing in an exit poll, I don't know how statistically significant it will be. Market will be, sideways on Monday. What we have seen is very strong domestic buying is buoying up the market. That continues. We saw in the last 1 hour on Friday some index management going on, as well as some shorts were really squeezed out. That's why the markets ran up, especially the banks. Overall, the situation is much more grim for the banks. If you see the way the RBI auctions are devolving, that is pointing to a higher interest rate. Oil is not looking good. Trump and Iran not looking good. So it was a market which surprised us last week with the way it ran up. And especially on Friday in the last 1 hour, looked like smart money has got it figured out that it's a BJP government. So far, the trends are looking like a BJP government, and that will be positive for the markets.
Ajay Srivastava, could we see the markets completely skip a reaction on Monday morning and wait for the big day, that's May 18th, to really see who's, which party the kingmaker chooses? That's the JDS as well as the BSP combined, and which way do they really align, and who forms the party eventually, the ruling party, that is?
See, I think markets are not going to miss the reaction on the Monday morning, because I think by tomorrow, a lot more information will start to filter in. You can filter out some of the exit polls were very biased, some may not be biased. But I think broadly speaking, one thing is what market will factor in on Monday morning is going to be that this is not a decisive victory for the ruling party. I think that's the bottom line, which is emerging already in all the exit polls. Nobody's saying 150 seats for the ruling party, or 122 on its own. Now, when you look at that kind of scenario and the build-up is that we will do it, then you have to get reactions in the market, because the polity has to react to an emerging situation where they could not win a straight election on their own after campaigning of 50 ministers and prime minister and everybody put together. And which is why I said that the first thing they have to do is to address the policy issues. So market is rejoicing partly, and I think Mr. Bagga said very clearly there was a lot of index management happening there. It's, market is 10,800, but that's not the market that most people are looking at. Most people are looking at mid caps on a decimated zone at this point of time. So market will react. I think you will see a correction coming in the market first thing on Monday morning in our view, because this is not a kind of a thing that people are expecting. We all love to, we are all long in the market. So we are all hopeful people in the market. So we are hoping political stability, regular wins, etc., etc. When it doesn't happen, we will throw a tantrum and we will lighten up our position, whether we like it or not, whether it's the right decision. But I think market will react a little negatively to the fact that this is not a clear-cut victory.
Ayesha, would you concur with that? Do you think that a scenario of a hung assembly is something that the markets will not take too kindly in the near term? And also, given that you have a slew of elections lined up, state elections, which would have an important bearing on the market's mind, it would be maybe sideways to a downward adjustment at best for the markets.
See, Karnataka elections standalone are not that much of significance to the fundamentals of the market. I mean, what is really important is all these are important as to how we start seeing 2019, the general elections. Now, if you spend a little bit of time analyzing them, the problem is that whichever states BJP got its majority, it was almost at 80%, 85%, whether it's Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, even UP. It is very difficult to repeat. Let everything put aside, just statistically, it is very difficult for BJP to repeat that scenario. I mean, a best case scenario, there should be a 10% drop in all this. The point is that where is that 10% being made from the northeast or the southern states? I think those are the calculations post Karnataka election that will come into play, because what matters really is in 2019 what happens. So that is uncertain. Karnataka makes it even more uncertain. So you will see, I guess, kind of a volatile market, and the fact that the physical and, like people pointed out, oil and industrial numbers are not really supporting very high levels in the market. Though one is seeing a pickup of credit, one is seeing a turnaround in certain things, but for the next. All these will be cues for the general election, and I think the assessment will be which way is the general election going. That is what is more critical as far as the market is concerned.
Ajay, come May 18th, do you think it's critical for the market's health that JDS actually chooses the BJP and BJP must come to power? Because if it is a Congress government that does form power in the state of Karnataka, that's going to spell disaster for markets?
Well, to a large extent, market has discounted in a BJP government. Especially, we were frankly, expecting that Trump walks out of Iran deal, markets go downwards. That did not happen. Market was blindsided on that. And the way markets overcame this volatility of, a hung assembly possibility in Karnataka and having intense negotiations seemed like the market had discounted in a BJP government. Yes, if Congress forms a government, it will mean a bit of a problem. As Mr. Srivastava was also saying, there are 3 states which go ahead now are anti-incumbency for the BJP. Rajasthan is like Tamil Nadu, where, it swings from Congress to BJP, so it's against them. Chhattisgarh is, Raman Singh for a long time. And then you have Madhya Pradesh against Shivraj Singh Chauhan fighting a very strong anti-incumbency. So this was going to be a high point for the BJP. And these numbers are, at least if the exit polls, the poll comes at 95 or to 90 to 95, this will be below expectation. I would take 2 inferences from this. I think if they had swept Karnataka, you would have had elections this year. Now, I think there will be some sobriety, some thinking. Remember, Vajpayee ji went for a 6 months earlier election, and then when he lost, he said, "Satta kaun chhodta hai? Humne bahut badi galti ki." So BJP would be doing a mistake if they, go in earlier election and lose 6 more months of power, of trying to make GST and demonetization effects go away, of trying to bring in some farmer sops, and at that has to come at the expense of the fiscal. Monetary, there is no space left. I mean, you look at what's happening in emerging markets. If you had put all that in, you would have been very worried about the Indian market, seeing the overall global scenario. What's helping the markets? Domestic flows remain strong. Corporate earning wise, you still remain strong in the large caps. Mid caps are starting to suffer. I think they'll stutter more, and there is some trouble ahead. So I would say markets are toppish already. Political situation will be volatile, but this kind of rules out 2018 general elections. It will be a tougher fight for BJP in these three incumbent states. That's what market will factor in, and it will get a little jittery. But the domestic money continues flowing for the next 3 to 6 months because that's a retail money. 2.3 crores SIP is happening, 10 lakh new SIPs coming in month on month, nearly 8,000 crores of SIP money coming in every month. That is a tap which takes some time to close because that's a retail guy. He's happier to buy more units at a lower price till they see
Ajay,
1 year.
those are fair points, and I think we'll talk about what the market will take away from this discussion. I completely agree with you. An early election or a midterm election is something that always has historically turned out to be a bit of a mistake, as we saw with the UK government as well when Theresa May called in for midterm elections last year. So tell you what, we'll take a very short break. Our panel is still with us. When we come back, help you prepare for trade Monday morning. Welcome back to the Street View. Battleground Karnataka is a special show that we are bringing to you, discussing how the election results in Karnataka would impact the markets when we begin trade Monday morning. And I just want to quickly recap the poll of polls and what they're indicating right now, because there's so many polls that are doing the rounds. The poll of polls verdict is that you'll have BJP with 93 seats, Congress with 94, JDS plus BSP with 33, and others with 2. So it's really neck to neck, and what's interesting is that I think at this juncture, the polls are indicating a hung assembly. Now we'll have to see how that translates into the actual numbers when the results come in on 15th May. But this is going to be an interesting one. It opens the gates to a series of state election results which lie ahead, which will determine perhaps and give us a prelude on what the BJP's position would look like at the centre in the general elections slated for the same time next year. Ajay Srivastava, Abhay Ayesha as well as Ajay Bagga are with us to discuss the market impact on account of these elections. And Abhay Ayesha, while you have made the important point that let's not put all the eggs in one basket and understanding the impact that Karnataka election results may have on the markets, but do you believe that the perception around BJP's position at the national level would be something that will have a bearing on the markets in the run-up to the elections same time next year over the course of the next 12 months, and that can keep the markets a bit jittery and on tenterhooks because even in some of the side talks that we have, everybody's asking just one question: what's going to happen with general elections next year, and do you think BJP will come back?
Yeah, I think that's a concern, and rightfully so, that the market has, because not taking any sides on the political front, I believe that for the economy it would be good if the current government gets 5 more years to complete what they have started and to see the results of what they have started. But if that was not to happen, I mean, the situation looks pretty grim, and even though eventually economies do recover, in the short term, for 6 or 7 months, it has an impact if it's a government which is, there, which is not decided, and you're not sure of who's going to form the government. So you're right, it's going to be a jittery year. I think the best thing, even Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, there are question marks. Maybe BJP will go in for, would make sense for them to go for the state and the general elections together, because that way the anti-incumbency of the 2 states kind of can get covered up. But it's all in the open. There are so many questions. It is confusing as the exit polls are. So in confusion, the normal trend of the market is that it kind of decides to either lie low or react downward. Added to that, the external conditions, whether it is oil or the physical condition, is not really. People are already talking of government having to come out with another series of NRI bonds to supplement their FX foreign exchange position. So that is, so all those are negatives. The only positive I can see which is still continuing is the flow of money and a very stable source of money, which is the retail money, which is SIPs, as I think Ajay pointed out, and that is I think what is keeping the market float. So, but if that was to kind of either, which is unlikely, but if that was to stagnate somewhere, or there were, you might see a correction in the market. But even with that, I think this is a year where confusion will prevail, and in confusion, I think the trend is always to be cautious, and unless there is something that happens which one will look at. So it's best to wait and watch and stay on your alert. It's not going to be an easy market for the next 1 year.
Ajay Srivastava, just very quickly before we wind down the show, you were making a very valid point that the government now needs to step back, take a stance on policy making. Do you think with Karnataka today, you've got Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan as well coming in the latter part of this year, policy making may very well take a back seat, and if indeed there is any policy decision, that could have a very populist nature?
Well, that's what I said. You need to counter that. But three things. One, you saw the banking result which came out. Almost half the nationalized banks under moratorium of RBI cannot lend money. Most of them are following that path in the next 12 months. I think hardly anybody will be able to lend money. So you got a credit squeeze coming. You got a fiscal profligacy on this side, which is going to open up the doors for farm loan, etc. But for the stock market, I think the key here is it will be a flight to quality, flight to safety. And you've already seen it. You will find a major shift in investments in banking to the top 3 banks. You will find major shifts to the consumer stocks. And I think that is going to get more accelerated at this point of time if the uncertainty continues. And obviously rightly saying that, listen, if you're uncertain, what do we do? If you're uncertain, you go by HDFC Bank, you go by a Kotak Bank and rest quiet, because these institutions will give you the kind of returns. So I think in the next fortnight or so, as the election sinks in, and if with this what looks like is going to be a hung or negotiated kind of a deal, you will see a serious flight to quality again. Lots of selling in mid-cap, lots of movement to large caps. And I think this will kind of change the dynamics of the market for a long time, because this will be stable money parked in long term. Mid-cap will not find buyers easily. So look at uncertainty, translate to your portfolio is flight to safety is key as you walk down on Monday.
That is the important aspect to watch out for when we begin trade Monday morning. But thanks very much, Ajay Srivastava, Ajay Bagga and Ayesha for joining us this Saturday evening, taking time out specially to give us more perspective on how viewers must approach trade Monday morning. It's going to be important. It sets the ball rolling for elections and policy making being top of the mind for markets. From Ayesha and myself and the entire team that put this show together, thanks very much for watching. Hope we gave you some perspective.